The other experience I had at Dickinson occurred during my first year as a freshman there. We took a course called World Civilization. I met a professor who was head of the department who taught that course, and he had his doctorate from Harvard. In fact, all 3 degrees were from Harvard. And he taught world civilization, and we had to pick a topic the first semester and start doing research. When we read, we were also we also were to prepare a bibliography on 3x5 or 4x6 cards, and he expected you to have about a shoebox full of those by the time you were ready to write your paper. You wrote a paper about a particular topic, and I chose Charlemagne, and who was an interesting person, and read all kinds of resource information about that. One of the things I remember was when I sat down to review that with the professor, he would look at me and quote different paragraphs on different pages of sources and say, go there and you'll find the answer that you're searching for. In my second semester as a freshman, I wrote a footnoted many-page paper on the topic of Charlemagne, complete with a bibliography. And I had never done a paper in that much detail, and I never did a paper like that until I worked on my doctoral thesis.
All right. So you went to Dickinson. When you graduated, did you go on to grad school immediately, or did you start working?
When I graduated from Dickinson, I did not have a job.
All right.
And my dad, since I didn't have an automobile, my dad took me to job interviews. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and I had job offers.
Job offers for what? Doing what?
In industry.
Industry. But you graduated with what degree?
A Bachelor of Arts degree, and I didn't have a ticket to do anything.
Right. So you graduated with a general Bachelor of Arts degree?
That's correct.
Okay.
And finally, in September, I said to him one day, would you take me to Bedford to see the county superintendent? I'm interested in seeing if I can get a job teaching. And he took me to Bedford. I visited the superintendent. I had called and got an appointment. And he said, yes, Hershberger, as a matter of fact, I've got a job for you teaching in a one-room school. And I almost fell off the chair because I'd heard my mother and dad both talk about one-room schools because they'd gone there. But that was the only experience I had. And so Monday morning, I went to work in a one-room school.
One-room school where, in Bedford?
One-room school 7 miles south of Everett on Clearbridge.
So your first job was as a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse?
That's correct.
What grades was that?
I had 28 students in grades 1 through 8, and I had a student in every grade.
How long were you at that job?
Until the end of the school year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I found that I liked what I was doing. I got along well with children and parents, and decided that I needed, from that point, my next step was to go to Indiana University of Pennsylvania and pick up my teaching credits that I needed for certification, which I did in 1 year's time.
All right. And then after that, let's just talk about jobs early on a little bit to keep in the flow. So you went to Indiana University, got your teacher's certificate. Then where'd you work?
I ended up in South Woodbury Township schools, teaching junior high and senior high students.
And how long did that last in South Woodbury?
I was there about 8 years. I was
Really?
there 8 years.
Now, during that time, were you back in grad school?
During that time, I completed a master's degree in counselor education
Where?
at Pennsylvania State University.
Main campus?
Yes,
So you commuted from where you were living.
New Enterprise. It was 54 miles from New Enterprise to my classroom.
How many days a week?
I would go at night because I was working during the day, and at least 2 nights a week, and sometimes on Saturdays.
Right. And how did you afford the gas for that from your South Woodbury job?
No problem. It was still a close to 25 cents a gallon.
All right. Well, before we get any further, then let's get back into your regular life, though. At the time, how did you meet your wife? Let's see if your stories match.
Whenever we downsized our farming in 1944, I was a sophomore in high school, and that was March of 1944, and Shirley was a student at Replogle High School, which I attended and graduated from, and she was 1 year behind me. And that's how I met her.
What did you like about her? And keep in mind, Mom's answer about what she liked about you was she didn't know.
She was attractive and fun to be with, and I liked to spend time with it. It was enjoyable.
Do you remember where and when you asked her to marry you?
Yes. I had not finished college yet when I asked her to marry me. I was, that was at the end of my junior year, and that was the time that I asked her to marry me.
And where was that at?
In New Enterprise, at her home, as a matter of fact.
That's not what she said, but yeah, go ahead.
Pardon?
That's not what she said, but I figured it wouldn't match. But, you know, if we're playing the match game, you guys would have lost. So was it at her house in New Enterprise, you said?
Yes.
Okay. How old were you when you asked her to get married? You were 21, 20?
No, I was just late 20s. I turned 21 the next October. We were married October 15th, and I was 21 October 20th.
And where did you get married?
In Lewisburg, at the Methodist Church.
And who was your best man?
Best man was my brother Bill.
And what other men were in the party?
My cousin George, and Shirley's brother Clay, and there were 2 other fellows, but I don't recall who they were right offhand.
Were you close to Mom's brothers?
No, I wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have considered myself real close to Clay, for example, and who else was in that wedding picture?
Was it?
I'd have to see it.
Who's the guy that Jerry Lee? Was Jerry Lee involved? Try to remember the picture myself, but
I don't remember. They said I'd have to look at the picture, but I know that.
And Mom said the reception was at her house?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we had almost 200 people at that reception in her house, if you can imagine that.
Was it outdoors at all, or just always?
Yeah, it was a warm day. Must have been on a Sunday. It would have had to have been on a Sunday. And the reception was immediately following a wedding.
And all the old lady relatives brought food, or?
No, they didn't bring food.
Yeah.
My mother and Shirley's mother, with help from a couple other ladies, did all the cooking. And they were fed a complete meal, as I recall.
Right. So after you got married, where'd you live, you and Mom?
One other thing I'd like to say about the reception, if I may. We got a lot of wedding presents, because everybody brought a present. And towels and sheets and just all kinds of cooking utensils. And I think I surprised the Hall family because we had so many Hershbergers that we were related to, and we invited all of our cousins and great aunts and uncles.
And after you got married, where did the two of you live?
We lived in what was called the spring house on the farm.
I couldn't believe that when Mom told me.
Yep. Clay uses it for storage now, but we lived in one room and bought our furniture from a John Baker, who was distantly related to Shirley.
And that's the little house behind Uncle Junior's house.
Mm-hmm.
That the one part you go in and that fresh spring
And the
is
other
inside
part,
where they keep
runs underneath.
where they used to keep the watermelons to keep them
Yes.
cold.
Oh
And
yeah,
whatnot.
and I used to keep milk in there before refrigeration. Matter of fact.
That cracks me up.
Yep.
All right, so you got married. You were teaching in South Woodbury. Where did you go after South Woodbury?
We went to York County and Spring Grove.
Right. So in Spring Grove, you worked at the high school?
Yes, but I went I did not go as a teacher. I went as a school counselor full time, which is what I was looking for.
Right. And the first house that you lived in Spring Grove was where?
We rented a property right next to the railroad tracks, as a matter of fact. And the front room was so small that we had to take an arm off the one couch in order to get it in there. But it was 2 stories. And as I said, right next to the railroad tracks, but it wasn't a main line, fortunately. It was just a spur that hold the...
And then you guys made a decision that for some reason you couldn't have children, so you decided to adopt.
Well, I'll back up. For 13 years, we were punched, pulled, tested, and told to go home and relax. Well, Shirley was called Speedy at the office, and she worked full time and liked what she was doing. I enjoyed what I was doing, and at the same time kept working on graduate degrees. Because I took 2 years off after I did my master's, and I started working on my doctoral. And so, in addition to that, she and I had a part-time job in the evening. So, go home and relax. We usually went home, went to bed, and sound asleep.